I'm starting a new life, turn wrongs into right. This is the Being Beloved podcast.
Greetings and thank you for joining us for the Being Beloved podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Rolanda Spencer. Today we'll talk to Faith Bartley as she takes us through her re-entry journey, detailing a path to self-discovery, self-awareness, and self-love. She shows us that sometimes being beloved begins with loving yourself. Here's Faith's story.
I'm starting a new life.
Who I am today is I am a formerly incarcerated woman who's been drug addicted in the past, but now I live a clean and sober life. I am also the co-founder of SWAG, which is Sisters with a Goal, the social justice arm of Why Not Prosper. And the Sisters with a Goal dynamic is we fight for women that's formerly incarcerated and the ones behind the wall. Mm-hmm. And I'm also a social justice advocate with another nonprofit who I facilitate a women's and reentry internship. Mm-hmm. It's called the People's Paper Co-op in North Philly. And so I've been a social justice advocate probably all my life, but I really came into myself in August of 2014.
Okay. And when you say you came into yourself then, can you tell me about that?
So through numerous stints of incarceration and off and on drugs, I didn't know who I was, my true identity, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't know what my purpose was. I was just really just flowing through life, a free spirit, and making poor decisions. And it wasn't until the Lord broke me down gracefully, not to kill me and not to hurt me, just break me down enough where I was so down I had nowhere up to look but to Him. And then I started fellowshipping with Him and just started knowing what my true purpose was. And I've always had a passion to help people. But because I'm a formerly incarcerated woman and I know what it looks like coming home and being thrust back into society and the barriers that we incur and endure trying to make a living, trying to sustain housing, to get back with their kids, reunification, it's kind of hard. Mm-hmm. And so once I did my last stint in prison, it was like, you know what, I want to make a difference. I want to help these women. Mm-hmm. So I went through the hoops and the bounds and cutting through the red tape, the invisible red tape that people don't see when we come home. Mm-hmm. Like getting doors slammed in our face for employment, even going to school to get a higher education, And I can tell you several things about my wanting to go to Temple University College. Mm-hmm. And they was like, no, we don't take formerly incarcerated individuals because we were making their campus unsafe.
Okay, let's definitely talk about that. Mm-hmm. So first tell me about your academic journey. Okay. And what led you to that, and then we'll touch on the temple.
Yeah. All right, so I want to say in 2020 in May, after being cleaned a couple of years, I was like, wow, what's next on my list? You know what I mean? And so I was like, all right, let me try my footing in school at the age of 54. I'm like, let me go back to school. Let me see how that happens. Mm-hmm. So I got in touch with a representative from Harcum College in Bryn Mawr, and I just signed up and see what happens, and I was accepted, even with the criminal history, and that was amazing for me because I said, as I stated before, I wanted to go to Temple, but Temple shut the door in my face because of my criminal history.
Why did you have to disclose your criminal history?
Because it's on the application.
Did you apply for financial aid? And
yes, I did.
Is that how it came up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I worked on this initiative about, I want to say 3 years ago, about being in the box on college applications, rental housing applications, and job applications. So the box is not supposed to be there, but upon the interview, they are within their right to ask you, have you ever been convicted of a criminal?
But I'm pretty sure, I work in the criminal justice space, I'm pretty sure that they cannot discriminate because of your background in an academic institution.
Well, they did that. Temple did that.
Okay,
Temple
well,
did that.
We're gonna follow up on that.
Temple did that, you know, because I really wanted to go to Temple. You know, born and raised in North Philly,
Of course.
and seeing the gentrification take place, right? I'm like, yo, I really want to go in that institute. I want to see what it's all about. And they wouldn't accept me.
When listening to Faith's experiences, there's a number of institutional barriers that worked against Faith. I do know that people in prison would not be able to take, for example, online classes at Temple just because of access issues and things like that. But to clarify, from what I've seen, there is no policy that precludes formerly incarcerated populations to attend. What I would gather Faith came across is a financing issue. Faith discussed that she had to disclose her background on the federal application for student aid. Now, this is important because in 1988, the Higher Education Act is the act that eliminated access to financial student aid for those who had been in possession or convicted of a drug crime. So let's clarify this further. According to the ACLU, this is how the Higher Education Act works. Students convicted for possession are automatically ineligible for aid for 1 year from the date of the first offense, 2 years from the date of the second offense, and indefinitely if convicted 3 or more times. Now let's be clear that this is simply for possession and the amount does not matter. Second, students convicted for sale are automatically ineligible for aid for 2 years from the date of the first offense and indefinitely if convicted 2 or more times. This is where you fall in line with the 3 strikes laws that came in around that same time. Lastly, students barred from receiving aid can regain eligibility prior to the designated terms only by completing a federally approved drug rehabilitation program, of which there are several within the United States.
Since Faith's application process, the disclosure mandate has changed. On November 4th, 2022, it was announced that the FAFSA Simplification Act, which was enacted into law as part of the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021, amended the FAFSA form, along with several amendments to Pell Grant eligibility and other things such as discharging student loans and as well repayment loan discharges. Even though this presented a barrier to Faith at the time, she still persisted in her educational pursuits.
So I went to Harcum, right? Harcum was ex-offender friendly.
Okay.
So is Chestnut Hill, because after I left Harcum with my associates in human services, I went to Chestnut Hill for my bachelor's in human services, and I just finished December 17th, 2022. So I'm just waiting to walk on May 13th of 2023, just waiting to close the deal on it.
Okay.
But I'm done.
And what do you hope to do with that degree?
So with the 2 degrees, I don't know. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't know. I just think these were personal challenges for myself to see if I could.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
And I don't know. A lot of people, a lot of friends of mine, they be like, Faith, you heavy now. You got some letters behind your name. What do you look to do? And my answer is always, I really don't know. I don't know. All I know is that these are things I wanted to achieve for myself. You know, in my generation and my family, I'm the first to ever do it.
All right.
You know what I mean?
First generation college student?
So yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know. I wanted to challenge myself. You know, I'm finally getting to know who Faith is. You know, for 30 years of my life, I've been addicted to something. You understand? Love, codependency, wanting to be with somebody and having them make me happy. And so these past 5 years, I've really been spending time with me and the Lord. You know what I mean? So whatever He deemed my purpose to be, I feel like I'm gonna let Him order my steps. So I'm gonna just keep continuing to stay on the path, the straight and narrow path, and keep holding, looking up to Him and asking Him to order my steps.
So when you decided to go the education route, just for personal fulfillment, what did that mean for you, coming from this 30 years of addiction and just being focused enough and having enough self-confidence even to do it?
Well, so I'm not going to toss her name out as much during this interview, but I want to give kudos to Reverend Michelle Simmons.
Okay.
Because when I came to Why Not Prosper in October 2017, she seen something in me that I didn't see in myself because I was so broken, right? So after a year under her leadership and under her anointing, I start to see, some of the scales start to peel off for me, and I start to see who I was in God, you know what I mean? And believe it or not, I don't know if I appear to be confident, but I still struggle with the demon of unworthiness. Oh, I'm not worthy. And Rev's like, yo, you're worthy of everything. And so I struggle a lot with unworthiness, and I tend to struggle a little bit with judgment. Working in the human service field, I can't be judgmental. I gotta meet people where they are, right? And what I found out in this healing journey is that when I'm judging others, it's because I judge myself. So if I let myself off the hook, if I work with the unforgiveness, hey, Faith, you effed up. Okay, so what? But look at you now. And then and when people say, oh, you're so intelligent, like I have an older brother and sister, and they be like, Mommy, I knew you could do it. Mommy always said you were smart. And I'm like, I don't like that, because if I was so damn smart, how the hell in 2017 I end up homeless? So when people talk about my intellect, I'm like, I don't think so. I ended up homeless in 2017. But those are because the choices and the bad decisions that I made, right? And so Rev is always telling me, Faith, you gotta let yourself off the hook. You're stifling yourself. Right. Move away from that.
So let's switch gears and talk about the city, right? The city is an old city, has a lot going on, there's people on top of people. So can you give me a visual of Philly when you were growing up?
Philly when I was growing up looks like living on a clean block, right? Even in North Philly, blocks were in competition about who had the cleanest block. People cared. Neighbors cared. If neighbors saw you curse, they were able to reprimand you and then tell your mother, and she would reprimand you too, right? People cared about each other, you know what I mean? They shared food, we had block parties, Play Street, free lunch programs in the summertime, painting the block, the curves. Everybody looking out for one another, making money, right? Scrubbing steps. Back then they had marble steps. And you would take cleanser and a scrub brush and scrub and make about $2, right? And the neighbors would always look for you. Faith or Kenny, are you available? You want to make $2? It looked like penny candy. For 50 cents, for $1, you can get a bag of penny cookies, Tootsie Rolls, all that, and walk up and down the street and be like, pour out the bag every 5 minutes, be like, how many did you eat? How many you got left? 100 pieces. It's like the little games we played, tag, hide and seek, not going to the store unsupervised, like we would have to get an adult to walk us to the corner store of the block, you know what I mean? Street lights coming on, us going in because we knew. Street lights come on as playtime is over. coming home from school and changing your school clothes and putting on play clothes, but before you go out that door, do your homework. It looks like spaghetti on Wednesdays, fish on Fridays, pork chops on Tuesdays, Monday liver. That was the routine my mom used to do, right? Saturdays, McDonald's, right? Sunday church and maybe Church's chicken or Kentucky Fried Chicken, or dinners in the church basement. It looked like after church going to the speakeasy with my grandmom and the children playing outside, and they in there playing pitty pat and tonk and cards. That's what it looked like back then for me.
Okay. And what does it look like today to you?
It looks like people not dealing with their mental health. It looks like a lot of mental health issues going on with people. It looks like a lot of broken people. It looks like a lot of unsupported people. Juvenile delinquents running around the city killing and just killing each other over ego. A lot of ego and false pride. You know what I mean? A lot of disrespect to the elders. A lot of not giving your seat an elder, giving your seat up for an elder on the bus, knowing that the first set of seats are for handicapped individuals. Look like sitting there and not caring. It looks like drug addiction. It looks like a lot of broken people that don't know their way out, man, that don't know how to get out and probably want to get out. It looks like hope crushed, like no hope. Nobody cared about anybody.
How do you think that the city made such a drastic turn?
I always say this. I think it started when crack cocaine first hit the city of Philadelphia and broke up the homes, put fathers in prison, mothers getting addicted, even fathers getting addicted, kids having to fend for themselves, have to go out there and feed themselves. I think when the drugs came in the 80s and, you know, I always say that incarcerating men and women is breeding these juvenile delinquents we see running around because no guidance. No guidance. They left out here fending for themselves. You know, and they only know what's being taught out here in the street. So the street and the phones and the internet has become their parents, right? Their guidance. I think incarceration play a heavy part. When you lock up women, specifically women, you lock up the hope of a community because we're the nurturers. We're the people who want to, we got that nurturing spirit, you know, we care.
Right.
Sometimes to a fault.
Right.
You know?
To gain more insight on what happened to Philadelphia, Arc Republic spoke to Marilyn Kai Jewett, a marketing communications consultant, journalist, and priest of the West African Yoruba tradition.
Well, Philadelphia was an industrial city back in the 1800s. There were a lot of factories going on here. All kind of stuff was manufactured in Philadelphia. It was a manufacturing center. But around the late 60s and the early 70s, a lot of the factories began closing. It's a working class city. Even though there's a lot of colleges in Philly, it's basically a working class city amongst all the ethnic groups. So if you didn't have a high school diploma, you could still work at a factory or a trade and make your money. A lot of the white folks, they moved up into the middle class and black from working with the factories. But during the late 60s and the 70s, a lot of the factories closed, so you have communities, you still have communities with empty factories, which are now being bought by developers from New York and other places, turning them into condos and high-rise places with high rent and high mortgages that basically the people from Philadelphia cannot afford, and is gentrifying our city. Well, actually, Philadelphia has a long history of successful black entrepreneurs going all the way back to the 18th and 19th centuries. We had African street vendors, tailors, furniture makers, carpenters, sail makers. James Fortin was a freeman. He was a successful entrepreneur, an inventor, philanthropist, and an abolitionist. He began a privateer during the Revolutionary War. He was a hero. After the war, he purchased a sail loft business and invented a device for ship sails. He employed an integrated workforce. We're talking about the 1700s. An integrated workforce. He became one of Philadelphia's wealthiest citizens. He used his money to purchase the freedom of other enslaved Africans, and he was an abolitionist. He had a newspaper and opened schools for black children. He supported women's efforts to obtain equality. Philadelphia was a center of black catering wealth. Robert Bogle was the first of many black caterers who served the white elite. He was born in 1774. He had his own shop at 46 South 8th Street. His descendant, Robert Bogle, same name, and he looks exactly like him. He is the publisher of the Philadelphia Tribune, America's oldest African-American newspaper, which was founded in 1884 by Chris J. Perry. You've got has a long history of black entrepreneurship, even in the early 20th century. Philadelphia had a lot of black banks. There's a chain of black-owned movie theaters, black banks all over the place, real estate owners, real estate companies. So, but integration kind of killed a lot of that. So people wanted to integrate, and the education system is not like it should be. The trades were taken out of the schools, but they did that all over the country. The trades were taken out of the schools, so if you didn't go to college now, you have no trade. Back when I was growing up, you still had the trade school, so people could get a good trade. Now that's not happening. There's a lot of jobs, but the people are not educated enough to get those jobs. A lot of them can't even read. So when you have no finances, you're going to find finances however you can. People are going to survive regardless.
Let's go back to, in your mind or in your experience, let me say that, how do you think you got to this place of feeling judged, right, and feeling unworthy? Where do you think that started?
I think it started in my childhood.
Okay.
I think I came from a single parent household. My father, I can't even remember what he looks like because he left it when I was 5 years old. Mm-hmm. My mom was drug addicted and alcohol addicted, right? And me being the oldest out of three, a lot of responsibility was put on me. Mm-hmm. I really couldn't do what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I really couldn't say no to things I didn't want to do. Mm-hmm. You know, it was either do it or get your ass beat. You understand? Yeah, and then me being molested at the age of 12 by one of my mother's boyfriends, you know, and then going to her and telling her, this is what's happening to me. And she's like, shh, don't tell nobody. We'll deal with it behind closed doors. And I needed therapy. I needed to talk to somebody.
You know, it's so interesting that you said that because I just saw a TV show where it was a man grooming a woman, and they did it in that exact same way, in the way that you're describing. Yeah. And the reaction from the mother was the exact same thing. Do you think that many young women at that time had those types of experiences?
I'm sure they did. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they did, because we're talking about, so I was born in 1964. We're talking about 1975. I didn't know anything about DHS. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that I could go to somebody and talk about what was going on with me behind them closed doors in that household. My mom was one to say, the business that goes on in here is not to be said outside these doors. Mm-hmm. So I thought I had an outlet to go to her mother, my grandmother, and tell this. Only for her, my grandmama, to go and confront my mother And then I got to go back home in my mother's house, and she beat me for telling her business.
Did you have anyone that you could go to outside of your household?
No. So what happened was, because I came from a household that didn't supply much but the basic needs like shelter, food, one pair of sneaks, one pair of church shoes, and one pair of winter boots per year, I started prostituting myself at an early age, but I didn't know it then. I just thought, well, maybe, guys would pull up, and this old guy I can remember, he would catch me sitting on a step, and he would just tell me to open my legs and just watch me and give me $5, right? And so that became a habit for me, right? I can say it was molestation from my step-grandfather, but every time he was drunk and I spent the night over my grandma's house, I knew I could get some money from him if I just let him look at me. So I don't know, it became a thing for me, Yeah, it became a thing for me.
According to the Centers for Disease Control, about 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 13 boys in the United States experience child sexual abuse. It goes on to say someone known and trusted by the child or child's family members perpetrates about 91% of all child sexual abuse. Child sexual abuse can result in short and long-term physical, mental, and behavioral health consequences such as heart disease, obesity, cancer, depression, PTSD, substance abuse, risky sexual behavior, increased risk for perpetrating of sexual violence to another, and also an increased risk for suicide and suicide attempts. When did you start making the decisions that you felt like contributed to your incarceration?
Just the need for more, wanting more, you know what I mean? Wanting to keep up with the Joneses, wanting not to be talked about in the neighborhood, wanting to have the hottest stuff, the latest stuff, just keeping up with the Joneses, you know what I mean? So, I would get with people that was getting a couple dollars, selling weed, selling drugs, running in retail stores, stealing, boosting, and selling it throughout the neighborhood, and just trying to stay close to money so I didn't have to ask and do the things I used to do as a young child. You know what I mean?
So did that give you an opportunity to just kind of like come into yourself more? Did it contribute to your self-esteem or?
No, what it did was it kept me rooted in drug addiction.
Okay.
It kept me self-medicated. My first prison stint was in 2000. I was sentenced to 3.5 to 6 years up Muncie State Penitentiary in Erie, PA. All because of wanting to have money, but still was hooked on drugs, self-medicating, because again, I didn't want to deal with what was happening in my life, and I didn't know how. And I didn't feel like I had somebody in my neighborhood that I could talk to and wouldn't use it against me.
Okay.
And I tried that, but they used it as ammunition to shoot holes in my soul.
How so?
When things didn't go their way. Like if I got into an argument or I didn't give a person what they wanted, even after I was betrayed by who I called my best friend. And like the minute she couldn't get what she wanted, she started telling my business, betraying me. Just using my pain to shoot holes in my soul, just to injure me. And I was like, okay, right then I don't trust nobody, so I'm walking around heavy as hell, carrying all this muck and mire. That's heavy, it's exhausting. They have nobody to go to. And although I had a inclination or concept of who God is or was at the time, I really didn't have a relationship with him. I had foxhole prayers. Lord, if you get me out of this, I won't.
Foxhole prayers, okay.
Lord, if you do this for me, I won't. All to return back to the source and discomfort and the pain of it all, of what my life was then.
Being Beloved podcast was made possible by a grant from the Valentine Foundation and also sponsored by Love Now Media.
Now we're going to switch gears and look a little bit into your incarceration, as much or as little as you want to describe about it. And just to give us some context about your transition out.
Okay. So, phew. It wasn't a fun ride, that incarceration part of my life, right? It was a very dehumanizing experience, right? It was a lights out. You can shower now. You can meal now. You can go out for rec now. You know, it's being told, it's that the authority, you know, the authoritarian lifestyle in there. Like, you're being told what to do, when to do it, right? And because I spent 6 years in the Army, in the United States Army, I was fairly disciplined when it comes to authority, right? I was what you might want to say, lack for better words, a model prisoner. You know, I knew what to do, when to do it, you know what I mean? You know, I follow instructions very good. You know?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
And so I was disciplined in that area, but also I felt like an animal in there. You know, people were stealing, people were fighting over soups. Oh, and I wasn't a part of that. I mean, you know, it was like, wow, where's the morality in this? These people are not right. They act like animals, you know. And so here I come with this morality thing, like, where are your morals at? How could you do this? How could you lie? How could you cheat? How could you steal? How could you not tell the truth? Because I come from untrusting, you know, not even trusting myself, right? And so I come from that world of, who do I trust? I can't trust anybody. But I'm thirsting to want to be in the in crowd. I'm thirsting for a friend, you know. I'm thirsting for, you know, passion, somebody to love me. I knew my mom always loved me, but now my life is turned upside down. I keep going in and out these prisons like it's a revolving door, all because I didn't want to stand in who I was, or I didn't know her. I didn't know Faith, you know. All I knew is Faith was going to get what she wanted by any means necessary. And if that means that it came to handcuffs and me being back behind those walls, that's the mentality I had. I just didn't know how to be, how to live, you know. I didn't know how to deal with things that were curling, that I was dealing with. I suppressed it so much. The molestation, the being treated, you know, being physically abused by my mom and her drunkenness. You know what I mean? Being held accountable for if the dishes wasn't done, if I didn't help my bed, or if I didn't make her bed, or if I didn't do the household chores. You know, why didn't you feed? You know, so all that, I was dealing with all that in prison, right? But then I put the game face on and like, oh, I'm okay, but I'm drowning. I'm sick and suffering on the inside. I'm so hurt. The little girl in Faith is so hurt. And she just want to be loved. But what does love look like? Does it look like always giving people stuff for them to love me? You can have a suit. You don't have to pay it back. Just be my friend, in other words, without saying.
How many times were you incarcerated?
So my first incarceration stint started in 2000. And it led all the way up till 2007. In and out, in and out, in and out. Yeah.
Okay. And what happened where you just said no more?
I stopped doing the things that'll get me a seat in there.
Okay,
right?
Fair enough.
I stopped doing the things that'll get me in the back of a paddy wagon, handcuffed.
Was there something that happened that just kind of like, this is it, you know?
So my mom had terminal cancer in 2007. And I had built up such a love-hate relationship with my mom. Not blatant disrespect, but just staying away from her. Maybe I do drive-bys and drop off a couple of dollars because I still was straddled and trying to get to a couple of dollars. selling crack in Kensington and all this. Still trying to stay self-sufficient, and I drowned. But yeah, it was when my mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and I think she had like a year to live at that time. I came to live with her just to take care of her, and that taking care of her meant shooting morphine up in her, like so the pain that she was dealing with can subside. So she had little vials of morphine that I would just give it to her orally, and I would lay in the bed with her, and I felt like I wanted to try to make up for lost time. And I had got this job on the avenue around the corner from where she lived, and it was like a cashier waitress job. And the day I got the job, the next morning she was in an ambulance, and I was like, Mom, let me go with you. And she was like, no. Mr. Terry at the time was her old man. She said, he'll go with me. You go to work because you just got this job. Still trying to get my life together, just struggling, but what was I doing? And so I went to work, and after work I went to the hospital, and she was in bad shape. She was really in bad shape. She was leaving, and 2 days later she passed away. And it was like, wow, what the hell's going on? And of course, you know what I went? I went back to the drugs to deal, right? But it didn't leave me in incarceration though, because I kind of knew, like, I don't want to go back to jail, so let me pump the brakes some kind of way. I don't know, it was the Lord, it was divine intervention. I never went back to jail after 2007. I was able to see my mom off. I didn't have money. I didn't have much money then, so it took a collaboration with my brother, me, and my sister to kind of dig up some money to give my mom a part viewing and cremation, so folks can view the body from 9 to 11, and then afterwards she was cremated. Until this day, I have her cremations and my grandmother's in my room. As a matter of fact, I came to Why Not Prosper with those 2 boxes because my sister and brother didn't know what else to do for me at this time, right? And they said, well, maybe Mommy and Bubby is a Jewish name for grandmother. Okay. So maybe Mommy and Bubby will help straighten out your life, take them. And so I've had them with me for 5 years. And they become my support on a spiritual level, because I'm always talking to them like, wow, Mom, this is crazy, right? She always called me her #1 soldier, and my grandma would always say, I don't know what's in them damn streets. 7 days a week you run them streets. What's in them streets? You ain't gonna be satisfied until the ground holds you or the jail cell holds you. So I get to talk to them every day and be like, yo, I'm staying above water.
Well, tell us what was in them streets. Let's talk about Kensington, the area that you said that you worked in.
Right, so
can you describe it vividly?
Oh my God. So in '93, I start making my way from across Broad and Lehigh to Kensington, and I was with this girl, and I didn't know who I wanted to be. I was struggling with my sexual identity, so I started dating girls, right? So I found this girl, we moved over in Kensington, and then, she started selling weed, and then I started selling weed for her, and then we became a team. And then a Dominican approached us and said, look, why don't you sell some crack? We'll give you $2,500 for the block. And so on this block, people, addicts moving up and down the street. We were on a block where it was very flaming with addicts, you know what I mean? They knew who to come to, So it's 2 women on a block selling crack, selling angel dust, selling weed. We had our own little enterprise, and it was all rooted in just wanting to be this famous celebrity or famous person. You know what I mean?
The Kensington neighborhood in North Philadelphia is currently one of the epicenters of the opioid epidemic and has been a hub for high drug activity. So much so, on several main thoroughfares and ancillary streets, there is an open drug market and bevy of illicit and dangerous activities within it.
What did it look like there? Because I've never seen it, so if you're going to paint a picture for me.
It looked at like corner stores, on each corner, maybe a Chinese food store where everybody hang out at, smoke weed. Maybe across the street at the bodega, the Dominican bodega, you got a couple of people standing there. It was like we were all on post, right? Mm-hmm. It was like a lookout guy riding up and down looking for 5-0. 5-0 coming, y'all. Everybody stuffing their shit, you know, or moving off the corner, right? And I was engulfed in it. I that was my, you know, I got money now. I don't have to ask nobody for nothing. And all the intellect, all the things, the military, the being brought up in the church by my grandmom, all that fell by the wayside. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find God in all of it.
Was it the environment that you felt stifled your growth?
I feel like I was a product of that environment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back now to today. Today.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of how you see yourself, tell me again how you saw yourself then, and then tell me how you see yourself
So
today.
metaphorically, how I see myself back then was I was a clay pot. Now I see myself as a golden vessel. I see myself as a person that need to help other people get to their better selves, right? Back then I see myself in a demonic state of mind, a dog-eat-dog world, a self-centeredness world, a self-obsession world, locked and loaded, like me. But now, flip side, I see myself giving myself of others, you know, trying to love unselfishly, you know, not looking at myself as this big person, but just looking at myself being a vessel, being a golden vessel for the Lord. You know what I mean? Not on a religious note, but just on a spiritual note, just trying to find my way to give back what people gave to me. Even if it was good things they gave to me or bad, it was all the experiences. I feel like all of it had to happen for me to get to where I'm at today. Mm-hmm. Everything that I went through had to happen. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And the gratitude I have is that I survived it.
When you finally came home, the last time you came home, and the last time was the last time, right? Okay, so let's talk about the last time. What type of support did you have?
None.
Okay.
None.
Mm-hmm.
None. I actually, when I came home, maybe a month after I was home, I was staying with a friend on the sofa, which was good. But then things got raggedy, you know. Oh, bitch, you gotta find you someplace to stay. You can't be living here. My man, I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? So I went to this pizzeria and I was ordering a slice of pizza, and it seemed like the girl at the counter couldn't hold the phones down and take the orders in front of her. So I said, where's your manager? So it was a Greek guy. I was like, yo, sir, I do just what you do, and I'm willing to work for you for 4 hours. And at the end of that 4 hours, you don't even got to pay me. Just tell me you hired me. So he's scratching his head. He's like, So mind you, this is all when I come home. This is what prison looks like after I come out. Mm-hmm. So he's like, okay, come back tomorrow. I came back tomorrow, came back the next day. And so the phone started ringing. I said, show me the menu. So while I had some downtime, I'm looking on the menu and I'm realizing the prices and all, and I'm trying to see what's on the menu. And so the phones was ringing, And I was just, hold on please, boom, hold on please, wiping the counters. He really ain't had to tell me nothing to do. Wiping the tables when people leave, wiping down the salt, just things I was doing. And he was like, Uneka. Uneka in Greek means girl. He's like, Uneka, you're hired. And I was like, and he started to give me $40. And I was like, no, this on me. You hired me. You stuck to the plan. I trusted you. Mm-hmm. Trust started revealing itself little by little. And I stayed with that guy for a couple of years. And then this guy I was serving came in a restaurant. He was like, Faith, listen, I got this mean opportunity at the Village Arts and Humanities in North Philly. They looking for a woman that's been formerly incarcerated. Now this guy got to know me through many conversations of me serving his breakfast and all, and just hanging around the table talking to him because I'm not rude. And he put me on the Village Arts and Humanities in 2014. And I was introduced to these two people that came from Richmond, Virginia, that made paper, handmade paper out of discarded mail, discarded magazines, into beautiful paper. And then the paper be cut down into hardback used books. We take that paper out and sew our handmade paper in, and we make beautiful handmade journals. And I do that to this day.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and then it was a screen print inside the studio that says it's more than pulp and water. So when you go to make paper, you shred it and then you put it in a homemade blender and it turns into pulp. And it was the screen print on the wall that says it's more than pulp and water. And I'm like, damn, what do they mean by that? So I asked Mark and I asked Courtney, I was like, damn, what's going on here? And they was like, well, we were thinking of doing an internship with formerly incarcerated women. What'd you think about that? Would you co-facilitate it? And I was like, and me and my unworthiness, I don't know if I'm capable. They was like, yo, you want to give it a try? I was like, bet. So I started galvanizing. At the time, I was still corresponding with Women Behind the Wall. And I'm like, yo, when you get out, I got something for you. Mm-hmm. I'm going to invite you to an internship for 10 to 12 weeks, and you get a stipend at the end. But in the meantime, you're going to learn about your inner self. You're going to learn how to make paper, how to make beautiful art, write poems, and just speak to what you think it needs for you to be free from jail and what others need to survive and thrive after returning home from prison. Mm-hmm. And so 2014 until the present is what I'm doing. And then, of course, in between there, I was really drug addicted and going to work and being up all night and so they allowed me to step back and get myself together. And when I got about 6 months clean, they called me at Why Not Prosper and was like, Faith, we want to have a conversation with you. You think you ready? And I'm like, yeah. So then I did some damage. So I had keys to it. Mm-hmm. So I'm in there all times of the night, still in computers and all that, right? Never went back to jail, thank God. Some people could have got me locked up. But because of grace and mercy, again, saved me. But when they called me after me being clean 6 months, I had to go face off with them. I had to tell them the things that they already knew. Yeah, I came in here and I stole the computer, a couple of laptops, I did that. I had to confess a lot, mm-hmm. right? And I had to trust that they was going to take me back. I didn't know. I just knew at this point, I just wanted to just be free of all this. This shit heavy right now. Let me just dump it and let the chips fall where they may. Mm-hmm. And because of God's grace and mercy, they bring me back. And now they see me and they be like, wow. And so, yeah, and so I'm telling you, the people I work for are amazing, but it's time for me to step back now. And I don't know how to step back because I feel so indebted to them. Real talk, right? Because they held on to me.
Right. But it's all about forward movement, right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. That's what
just
Ralph
the
said.
next step of your journey, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you're gonna have some tough conversations, and yeah. So that's what I'm going.
You have Psalm 91 tattooed on your left hand.
Yeah. That's what I live by.
Explain that, yeah. Black people in Psalms, that's all you need.
Hey, listen, I'm well vested in my Bible, but In 1983, December 21st, I went into the United States Army after high school. I came out of Northeast High School, which was predominantly white in 1979. Living in North Philly, my mom elected to send me up Northeast because she said that the white people taught better. I was in walking distance from 2 high schools. I had to travel 3 buses. So when I graduated in 1983, I said, I gotta get away from my mom because, wow, she's driving me bananas. Not only that, I'm still dealing with some stuff I don't even know how to deal with. So I was like, I'm going in the Army. So my grandmom gave me 3 Psalms. She gave me Psalm 23, the Lord's Prayer. She gave me Psalm 37, fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. And Psalm 91. Psalm 91 is a psalm of protection. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge, my God, in Him will I trust. And it goes on.
Do you trust yourself to be in a relationship?
No.
Okay.
Because what happens, it's been my experience that I give so much of myself that I don't have nothing, it's not reciprocal. You know what I mean? Right? And so it's been also my experience is that the reason why I became homeless is because of that relationships, because I made choices that weren't conducive to me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like the girl was smoking crack, but she was disappearing for weeks at a time. And I had a 1-bedroom apartment. I said, yo, why do you keep disappearing? At this time, I was only smoking weed. And she was like, well, I smoke crack. Tell me what I did.
You started smoking crack?
Yeah. Oh, you don't gotta go nowhere. I'll go get you some. All right, so okay. I ran out the house 3 times, right, to go get it. The 4th time, I said, hell, I'm going to go get me a straight and some lighter, and I'm gonna sit right here and smoke it with her. And I started smoking crack with her. Lost my place. Then we went to her mom's basement. Then she started telling me, you a crack monster. You ain't shit, you this, that, and the third. Yeah, bitch.
The mother?
No, the girl I was with. Oh, man, she was kicking me while I was down. And I ended up homeless. So, no, I don't trust myself in no relationship right now. I want to make sure that codependency filter is out. I feel like I love myself. I do love myself because guess what? I am doing the damn thing. I am for me, and I'm not prideful or haughty, but I'm humble, but I know I came a long way.
What do you think, or let me see how I want to ask this, because I wasn't going to ask, but what would have to happen for you to say, yes, I'm ready to be loved? And not just in a romantic relationship.
What would have to happen?
What would you have to see? What would you have to experience?
I think I would have to trust myself a little bit more. Okay. And trust that, I think it starts with trusting myself a little bit more, and I'll tell you why. Not that I can duck and dodge the drug scene, the bar scene, or anything, because it's everywhere, right? So I'm not in a box, but my practice has been for the past 5 years in keeping myself safe. And what that looks like is not going around those things that I know that could trigger me. So, I told Rev, I said, I still don't like, my sister works in a bar, and she'd be like, sis, just come say hi. And I'm like, no, sis, I can't be around that stuff. I don't trust me. And the reason why is because I was in a hair salon, and she does my hair. And she went over to the bar, and she brought a drink there. And last year, I looked at her cup of Henny, and I'm like, man, nobody ain't gonna know. And then I was like, oh, what are you doing? So all to say is I'm still learning to trust me. I don't quite trust me.
Okay.
All right?
Right.
I've left myself open. Look, Lord, I've been doing this thing for 50-something years. I don't know how to live. Show me how to live, right? Mm-hmm. Put people in my life that will push me to my greater good. And not just for the sake of, intimate sex and, just being codependent. I no longer live that way. And I'm okay with that. Does it get lonely? Does the bugaboo sometimes be like, Faith, you want to do a relationship? And I'll be like, I can't do it right now. It's enough trying to heal me and to take on somebody else's baggage.
Yeah.
I'm not willing at this point. I'm making a choice not to.
That's fair enough.
You said earlier that one of the main things that tethered you to addiction was relationships and codependency. Where can you give us more detail what that looked like?
That looks like taking shit when you don't want to take shit. That looks like not knowing your worth. That looks like having somebody talk down on you and you be like, oh, okay, just for the sake of it, just for the sake of wanting to be loved, right? That's what that looked like. I don't stand in that no more. I stand in my truth. I love me, right? So, and I know today, Faith brings to the table. I know what I bring. So, if you can't match it, we not doing nothing because I'm on my healing journey. You know what I mean? I'm no longer codependent wanting to be loved. Oh, I'll just do anything. You cheated on me. It's okay. We can work it out. No. No. Fix your crown, adjust your crown, and let's get this done. Saying no and meaning it. No hard feelings. I gotta do what works for me. You do what's best for you, I do what's best for me.
So what does that mean to be loved right now?
Oh my God. To accept my authentic self. For you to accept who I am in my skin. For you to support me. Conversations, communication. Oh, we having a disagreement? Let's talk it out. Let's talk it out in love. Yeah, it looks like just being partners, right? And people just can be true to themselves, can be their authentic self, and you still love me. And you still okay with that. When I have to mask up and represent a different person, that ain't gonna work. Because now the representative gonna show up, and now you gonna get to see me, you know what I mean, for me. I wanna walk in a love thing. I wanna be loved where I could get to be me, no matter what. And I ain't always right, and I'm open for compromise, right? Mm-hmm. But it's no going to sleep angry. It ain't no going to sleep or walking away from each other knowing that what lies on the other side of this door, I might not see you again. Let's talk. And then let's come to some kind of resolve. And if it can't work, let's be cordial about it. No love lost. It just didn't work. But I remember sitting in relationships where I know damn well I wasn't worthy of this. But I stomach it. All for the sake of love. All for the sake of not wanting to be with Faith. Right? I'm okay with Faith now. I've been single and abstinent for 5 years. And I'm okay with it. And I can't even believe it. I'm like, who are you? Because I've always had to have somebody to validate me.
Right.
I'm a little selfish with my heart right now.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I am. I'm still healing. And I'm still getting to know who Faith is. And I like what I see in Faith today. I like it. I love it. I'm mad at her. That's why did it take you so long, Faith? But then I'm always reminded, you had to go through everything you had to go through to get to here, Faith. Yeah, but Faith, and I do a lot of self-talk too. Yeah. Like, yo, good job, Faith. You did that, Faith. You know what I mean? Even days when I didn't want to sit in class and, there was a point in my semester where I wanted to throw in the towel, but I didn't. And I came to Rev. I said, Rev, these last 3 classes, I'm feeling overwhelmed. She said, Grasshopper, you at the end. Don't do this. We don't do this. We don't quit. I don't be around no chumps, she said. And I was like, you got it. And I strapped on my boots, pulled my boots up, and made it through. Yeah, so having people around you like that can say, oh no. See, and before I had a bunch of co-signers, which made me a legend in my own mind, right? Bunch of, oh yeah, Faith, yeah. Nobody say, hey Faith, that might not be a good look for you. Everybody co-sign. So now I surround myself with people who's going to push me to my greater good. And when the seed of discouragement creep up on me, I'll be like, yo, I don't know what's going on with me, but I'm feeling a little discouraged. And somebody can recenter me and kind of talk me off the ledge.
So even outside of your romantic relationships, you are in the process of being beloved, it sounds like.
Yeah, I guess I'm in preparation for it. I don't know what the Lord's who He's gonna put before me, but I don't know. I just keep my eyes
you're accepting it now.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
All right.
I get real goofy in relationships. I get so goofy. In the past, I don't know how I would be now with this new person that I'm becoming. I don't know what that looks like now, but I know in the past I'm so goofy.
Well, that's where your self-trust comes in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's the interview. So thank you so much, Faith, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I had a wonderful time hearing your experiences. It was really beautiful.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That's a wrap.
Yes. Cut. Got a little boogie, got a minute.
Look, she like, I'm back home.
I'm starting a new life.
You want to talk about a story of serious evolution. Thank you, Faith Bartley, for being so honest and open and allowing us into your life and how you are navigating the space of being the new you. And thank you for those who are listening to the Being Beloved podcast, a podcast exclusively on Arc Republic that is committed to telling the narratives of formerly incarcerated women who are experiencing or going through reintegrating back into their communities and their respective homes. As well, we want to thank the Valentine Foundation for providing a grant for us to carry out this very special series. The Valentine Foundation is a Philadelphia-based organization committed to empowering women and girls. And as well, we must send a shout out to our sister organization, Love Now Media. Love Now Media is a company that is committed to an equitable future by amplifying acts of love, I love this, at the intersection of social justice, wellness, and equity. Lastly, and certainly not least, we would like to give gratitude to those who are listening, who are coming home, who are reestablishing themselves and going through reintegration. We want to let you know we are with you, we support you, we see you, and keep going even in the roughest days. Oh, and we did not forget those who are inside and are doing their time and those who are about to be released. We all love you. We all support you. And we hope that you grow and evolve with this Being Beloved podcast. And remember to keep being beloved, beloveds.
I'm starting a new life. Turn wrongs into right. This is the Being Beloved podcast.